Pixonic, we have a problem. In one of your recent buffs of a weapon that has been around for a little while, you have made it a little bit too overpowered. This weapon is, of course, the Tulumba. The Tulumba is, well, a weapon that before was quite a decent weapon. It was used to some startling avail. And lately it has overtaken the WR game, the game in general, especially on long-range maps. I kind of like to think of it as hard-hitting as a Fury Trident. If you get hit by them, you lose a little bit of health. You lose quite a bit of health nowadays. If it's used on the correct bot, such as Griffin, it is as resilient as a Rhino. Tongue-tied, I'm sorry. And it's fast. One of the major downfalls of, say, the Orkin is that light bots can maneuver away. They can back up. They can get away from them relatively easily. But in its current stance, it is about as hard to avoid as an aphid. Now, these are three of the most powerful things in WR. Recently, they've been kind of balanced a little bit, you know? Aphids recently have been a little bit easier to avoid. The Fury Trident has been countered by, well, Tulumbas. And the Rhino was never really something that needed to be countered in the first place. Well, countered of course, but nerfed, no. In the right circumstances, the Griffin with Tulumbas on it is quite the deadly foe, I guess. The Tulumba, one Tulumba, a single one, that is level 10, can unleash 18,240 damage. A single Tulumba can do that. And it takes 3.2 seconds. Every 2.5 seconds, it can fire another shot. Each shot can take away 2,280 damage from you. That's still pretty serious, and it still hurts a lot when you get hit. As well, one of the main problems with, say, the Trident is its ginormous range of splash. You cannot peek around a corner, or peek around a corner with your camera being able to see this part right here, and be safe anymore. You can't do that. If somebody fires down that line, you will get hit. You will certainly get hit if they know to use their splash. Kind of like the Trident, which is one of the reasons that the Trident was so overpowered in the first place. The scenario that I'm commonly in, and I would say it's common for a lot of people, but I am going to go with, say, the Rhino versus a Griffin with one of these on it. Now, this is one. Keep in mind, this is a single Tulumba. Now, including the other one that may be on the other side, or even the two pins. Just a single Tulumba. Okay. So, if I am in my Rhino, and I spot a Griffin, or even worse, it spots me, starts firing. In a matter of seconds, the missiles will reach me. After that happens, I am down 1,824 damage. I turn, I put my shield up, I start walking. That takes time. And that time, it is still reloading, and it still wants to get a missile off at me. But let's say, for example, that doesn't happen. Say that you're already on it, and you're already in range. You spot each other at the same time, and your shield's already up. You start walking. It takes 14 seconds to make the 200 meters difference, to then be in range, 300 meters, to fire at the Griffin. But in the time that happens, the enemy will have already dealt 14,186 damage towards you with a single Tulumba. Which is a problem. You cannot counter that with a Rhino. It's even worse if you're in a Lance. A Lancelot. Because at that point, if you're in a Lancelot, it takes longer for you to get there. And if you don't have an Ansel on top of you, too bad. As is, the Tulumba Griffin does not have a serious counter. The only things that come to mind are a trident, something with tridents on top, and maybe an Ancelot. Maybe. Depends where it's at. If it's far behind enemy lines, good luck getting to it with an Ancelot. Excuse me. The Tulumbas, in general, especially on, say, a Griffin, are great counters for a number of bots. The bots that it's a good counter for are death buttons, because you can't make up the ground. They 300 meters. That's some minimal range. You can't make that up quickly, at least. Rhinos in general, doesn't matter what they have on them. If you pop up and land, in that time they can get a full salvo off on you, and every single time you want to turn, bump, 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 bump. To get around to them, they're gone. So what? They're also great counters for lances, Lancelots in general. If they are behind enemy lines, then even an Lancelot can't get to them. If they're out in the open, it takes 200 meters, and the 200 meters will take more than 14 seconds to get to. I just know that, because 14 seconds is the time it will take for, is the time it will take a Rhino with its shield up to get to there. Long range in general. The Tulumba is a long range. For just argument's sake, I'll call it long range. There are things like Zeniths and Trebuchets that can go further than that, but they are so minimal, or so uncommon, that I'll call that super long range. So, super long range is like Zeniths, Trebuchets, and Geckos. So I'll call the Tulumba a long range. So, even if you have Tridents, even if you have the Zeus, they only have to make up 100 meters in territory that is most likely their own. Honestly, it's really not sounding up for anybody who wants to counter them. And on top of that, not only long range they're good against, they're also good against beacon running bots. Anybody who has a fast bot who has low health. if you cannot outrun the missiles that are coming towards you, which is like one of the only weaknesses that the Orkin has, then it really doesn't have much of a counter that much. I mean, it's happened to me more than a few times when I'm just trying to capture some beacons. And really, beacon running bots are probably bottom of the totem pole when it comes to WR. Nobody likes them. They're easy to destroy. Their only defenses are really speed, and if you have a stalker, it's stealth. So what? And finally, my favorite. My favorite bot that they're a good counter against is a Carnage. Now, with the shield up, with the shield in full force, it will take out the shield, which leaves you vulnerable to any other attacks that may come. But otherwise, if you have a shield down, you are a very close-range bot. You are a very vulnerable bot without a shield. And from just about anywhere on most close-range maps, and from about half the long-range maps, if there is a Griffin with Tulumbas on it, it can jump up or just walk around a corner and shoot you. It will take a good chunk out of your health. And that's for most bots. Not something I like. Not at all. Now, do I agree that the Tulumba in general needed a buff? Yes. Yes, the Tulumba needed a buff. But you gave it 2 buffs for the price of 1. You gave it selective fire, which, of course, allows you to fire 1 or 2 shots and retreat back to where you want. So in other words, you can't really mess up a shot anymore. You cannot mess up a shot that, well, yeah, in general, you can't mess up a shot. And you also gave it increased damage. Now I know that the Orkin also got increased damage to probably try and counter this, but the Orkin did not need increased damage. It was already like the king of close range, or, 300 meters, Really the Thunder was the king of close range, but the Orkin was probably a really good runner-up. And at 300 meters, it's still deadly. It was deadly. It doesn't need to be any more deadly than that. We don't need to. We don't need to counter stuff like that. So people were using the Tulumbas beforehand with the pins on Griffins, but now they're using them more. In the last couple of rounds, I've looked at the teams. Most, if not, a lot, if not most of the players have these weapons at their disposal. And for people who did not choose to upgrade a Griffin or a Tulumba, it's a problem. Because we're at an extreme disadvantage. It's like the crisis with the Trident Furies and the Aphids beforehand. It's just overpowered and it needs to change. So Pixonic, and anybody who has contact to Pixonic, I know this might have been slow, I know some of my speech might have been slurred, but nonetheless, please let Pixonic know that the Tulumbas are really just a little bit overpowered and they need to change. Hopefully in the next update. The Tulumba, it's just a good all-arounder. It's a good all-arounder and it's a little bit too good. Thank you.